some very seminal work in, and she also talked about this idea of multiple perspectives, and then a concept that Marvin called the ways to think, which is a little bit subtle, but we'll talk about that maybe at the end of this time. Okay. Marvin also talked about a 6-layer architecture for the mind. And at the lowest level, there's just reflexes or reactive stuff. Above that, there's deliberative level, reflective level, self-reflective, self-conscious, and self-ideal. So you can think also about how this works in medicine. So we have a reactive layer, and the body has very quick reactions, blinking, nervous reactions if you bang somebody's knee with a hammer and jerks. Okay. So those operate on a very small time scale. And then we have chemicals that operate on longer time scales. And then finally, at the top level, the goal of medicine is to have people have healthy and happy lives. So you have to figure out, you also have to understand what a person's life is like and how the functions of their body fit into their life. That's very important. So you can't ignore a person's life. Another idea of Marvin is what's called the causal diversity matrix. So you organize problems as the number of causes versus the number of effects. Okay? And if you have only very few causes and effects, then you can use very straight line logical reasoning. But it's brittle because if that one way doesn't work, nothing's left. Okay? And the other, if you have many causes and many effects, you can use statistical or probabilistic reasoning. Okay? But then that kind of reasoning is hard to explain what's going on. Too many causes, too many effects. So the kind of sweet spot is the stuff in red that Marvin talks about, things like case-based reasoning and analogy. So we have a moderate number of causes and effects, and you can use multiple perspectives to understand what their interactions is. In 2000, Marvin wrote an article about it called Common Sense-Based Interfaces in the Communications of the ACM that said that if we're ever going to make our user interfaces work well, they have to have common sense knowledge. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about, so here's just a few characteristics of what's different about logical knowledge, or what we call data, right, and common sense knowledge. So, logical or factual knowledge is very precise. Common sense knowledge is vague. You might have a formal language or a formal database for expressing logical truths, but you express common sense in natural language. And then this last one is very interesting and important. If you have a database or you have some logical knowledge, you organize stuff up front in little categories, okay, and it's easy to use. Right? So you do upfront organization with common sense knowledge, you have to think about on the back end. You just throw it in any which way you can get it, and then it's the back end that'll really organize it. So we're not so interested in absolute truth as we are something plausible proved to be true. You cannot take a reasons why it is true. That's what we're after. So for about a decade, I've worked with some of my students and colleagues, Kevin Macy, Ross Streeter, on a project called Open Mind Common Sense, where we crowdsourced a set of knowledge and asked people to say in sentences what they knew about common everyday objects, including some health topics. So here's what we know about aspirin. Aspirin is a cheap drug. Aspirin relieves headaches. Aspirin is a single cell acid. Okay? And these are just random facts. None of them are very precise, but they constitute what an ordinary person would know about the concept of aspirin. Okay. We organize that into a knowledge base called concept. Okay. And concept, so what do we know about eating breakfast? Well, before you eat breakfast, you have to wake up. After you have a full stomach, it takes place in the kitchen, right? And all this stuff is not represented in traditional computer systems. What we want to represent is it's the knowledge the doctor has in their head. Okay. Now I'm going to show you an application of it in the medical field. And the idea is that we need to balance flexibility and constraints when we're interviewing patients. If we just ask patients to fill out questionnaires, or if we think of a patient as just a set of medical data, we're missing a lot. Okay. And in the hospital, there's something called the Medial Pain Questionnaire. So it has, 16 categories of pain, including lacerating pain. You can't interact with patients that way. It doesn't make sense, right? What if a patient says, doctor, it feels like there's an elephant on my chest. Okay. So what do we know about elephants? Elephants are gray. Well, that doesn't help. Elephants live in India. That doesn't help either. Elephants are big and heavy. Oh, yeah, rats do with pressure. And pressure, so now we can, talk about, this pressure pain, it's diffuse pain, it might intensify over time, and then we can put it in the questionnaire. So we have John Moore was a doctor that I was working with, and we took unconstrained natural language and we turned it into precise knowledge in the pain questionnaire. So if you say, my pain is like a knife, we had an on-screen agent that said, well, I know that a knife is sharp. Is that what you mean, that a knife is sharp? Okay. But if you say something out of the box, like, my pain is like a chainsaw. Okay. What does that mean? Well, chainsaws, what's the purpose of a chainsaw? Well, a chainsaw cuts things, okay? But it's a little bit different than a knife. So the pain might be a little vibrating. The chainsaw vibrates. So understanding all this stuff is a very, very important part of, a doctor not only takes data, right, but they also listen to the patient. And details from the patient's life help them understand the situation. And their job is to translate it into medically useful knowledge. When we work with big data or in past expert systems, they typically ignored common sense knowledge. It's a really, really important part. There's a quote from John McCarthy about MISIC, which is one of the earliest expert systems. And it said, MISIC's ontology has data for bacteria, symptoms, pests, infections, sites, antibiotics, and so forth. But it doesn't know where a doctor is. It doesn't know where a hospital is. It doesn't know why a person wouldn't want to be sick. Okay? So we have to bring all that stuff into into the medical process. One thing also we want to work on during the future is what we call not so common sense knowledge. So common sense knowledge is the knowledge we all share, right? But it can be divided up into smaller things where, so you can say, what is the common sense of a first-year medical student? What is the common sense of gastrointestinal specialist? And this isn't all the way towards expert systems. It's not the most complicated knowledge that you have, but it's kind of a base of knowledge. And one of the reasons why the original expert systems didn't work too well is because they were missing that layer of knowledge, and therefore they're brittle. In the current machine learning stuff, it's also missing that kind of knowledge. So it's also going to have a certain brittleness that we're going to have to deal with. So even if the machine learning statistics tell you something, the doctor and the patient still have to understand it well enough to have confidence in it and to be able to make use of it. So we need to represent that layer. We have a certain inference technique that we call analogy space, which arranges all the concepts we have into dimensions, like good or bad or big or small, depending on kind of aggregating these little bits of common sense knowledge. I'll skip along a little bit here. Okay. And I just want to tell you about a couple of projects that we're working on now that have to do with this idea of representing perspective. In particular, my student, Karthik Dhanakar, is working on trying to bring the idea of multiple perspectives into machine learning. So in typical machine learning, everybody loves it because you can just put a lot of big data and you can press a button and get an answer. The problem is you can only press that button once. Developing a general technique called lensing to bring multiple perspectives into machine learning. Okay? And the way lensing works is you run some machine learning procedure. Okay? And then you have to remember that when yesterday there was a talk on a lady at Children's Hospital who was talking about using machine learning to analyze text of doctor-patient interactions. Right? And that's good. We're doing that as well. But what you have to remember is that in the machine learning paradigm, it doesn't really understand natural language. It's just using a bag of words. Okay. And sometimes I'll turn that bag of words into a meaningful concept for people. Okay. So what we have is we make an interactive machine learning loop, okay, where we take some of the words that come out of the machine learning analysis, and then we feed it back to experts or people with different perspectives, and then you can ask them what's going on here. Okay. And then they can respond in unconstrained natural language. Okay. And then you can feed that back into the machine learning process. You can have an interactive loop. Okay. And it can be done differently for people with different perspectives. And by doing that, you can be able to get different perspectives on the same, what looks like just one set of data. Okay. And we're applying that in several interesting applications in mental health and in cardiology. So we're working with Matthew Knopf at Harvard on depression and suicide and self-harm, and we're working with a social network called Talk Life, where people with mental distress, they go and talk about their problems and what they might do. And we're analyzing some of this stuff, and we're who's a Canadian researcher that has worked on a problem of diagnosis of cardiac problems in women. There's been a lot of misdiagnosis and underdiagnosis of cardiac problems in women because 95% of cardiologists are male. A lot of research is done with male subjects only. Okay? And they look for the Hollywood heart, what they call the Hollywood heart attack, where a man touches their heart and keels over. Whereas a lot of women don't express the symptoms the same way. Now, there's a big question of, do they have different symptoms, what's called atypical angina, or do they just express the symptoms differently? And Dr. Katsoulis has shown that really it's about expressing the systems differently and how the doctors understand it. There's some great research that shows that. So what we're doing is, and then the actual physiology is determined by the angiograms, is very similar or exactly the same. Okay, so there's a big problem of misdiagnosis, and we're applying these multiple perspectives. We can take the doctor's perspective, which may be biased male, and we can take the patient's perspective, which may be more female. We can understand the modes of expression that each are using, and then we can apply it to the same sets of data and hopefully save a lot of lives of women who may otherwise be misdiagnosed. So I'll stop there for time, and I just want to leave you with the idea that the society of mind, multiple perspectives, common sense knowledge, analogical reasoning is an important idea for the medical field, and let's work on the society of the body. Thank you.
this time. We'll start again with the artificial intelligence talk by Henry Lieberman. And before, I wanted to share some thoughts on the topic described in the program as journey from artificial intelligence to intelligent health. The very short point here is that we should make that journey with artificial intelligence, actually. So to transform healthcare into intelligent healthcare, we do need artificial intelligence, and the wave of mobile computing and current explosion of mobile communications could be compared to the even bigger revolution and even more present intelligent applications on those phones. So artificial intelligence started about 60 years ago. Is going to revolutionize healthcare. The title of from artificial intelligence to intelligent health actually was used by me in 1995, and that paper was reviewed by Martin Minsky. That's why I put it on the agenda as the title of the talk today. It was a short paper that actually turned into this book published in 2002. And Martin, as described by Ray Kurzweil and others, was very generous with his time. At that time, I wouldn't officially his student. I became his student for life, I guess. But he spent time with me reviewing the paper, and there were three sections: advancing medical technologies, advancing global health information infrastructure, and advancing intellectual leadership. Those three components were part of that paper. And the book from 2002, as I reviewed it today, has some wonderful papers by about 30 thinkers who wrote about those issues, and they're still relevant. Now, the next book published as a result of the Future of Health Technology Summit was Future of Intelligent and Intelligent Health Environment. So that book has read, and I will not describe all the details because it would take me a year or longer. Now, I would like to share with you a quote from the Society of Mind book that will be further referred to by Henry Lieberman in his talk. And he refers also to the work, scientific work that I did with Martin on reasoning biology and creating programs that can actually be creative. So the entire area of creativity and adaptability and learning has a lot to do with random guesses and reasoning biology. That work was really fun to do too with Martin. So here's his quote from the Society of Mind related to reasoning biology. How do we ever understand anything? Almost always by using one or another kind of analogy. That is, by representing each new thing as though it resembles something we already know. Whatever a new thing's internal workings are, if they are too strange or complicated to deal with directly, we represent whatever parts of it we can in terms of more familiar sides. This way we make each novelty seem similar to some more ordinary thing. It really is a great discovery, the use of signals, symbols, words, and names. They let our minds transform the strange into the commonplace. And that creativity, adaptability, and ability to deal with novel situations is needed in software, in programs that will be diagnosing us, helping us with life problems, and giving us advice. It will be up to us humans to decide if we actually want to understand everything that we're doing, and that's another aspect of acceptance of those technologies. We have to start trusting them. But the mathematicians a while ago started to trust computer science and computer science-based programs in mathematical proofs. And in investments area, in finance, we trust complicated algorithms and programs to make investments. Somehow we have to make that mental leap to allow software, the algorithms and heuristics that we don't understand completely, as they can do things that our brain can't. We have to accept that and let them cure us. Dr. Hermano Igor Krebs will share with us his newest work on the topic, how can we repair a broken brain with movement therapy approach. He joined MIT's Mechanical Engineering Department back in 1997, where he's principal research scientist and lecturer in Newman Laboratory for Biomechanics and Human Rehabilitation. He also holds an affiliate position as an adjunct professor at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, Department of Neurology, at the Division of Rehabilitative Medicine. He's also a founder of the Interactive Motion Technologies, Massachusetts-based company commercializing robot technology for rehabilitation. His goal is to revolutionize the way rehabilitation medicine is practiced today by applying robotics and information technology to assist, enhance, and qualify and quantify rehabilitation. I can't wait to hear the news.
Well, thank you. One of the things that MIT always asks me to disclose is our conflict of interest. As Renata mentioned, I'm one of the founders, and I have equity in a company that licenses the technology from MIT and commercializes that. So we have started to work in this area of rehabilitation robotics in 1989. And one of our goals, looking to the population, engaging of the population, we see that if you would look here to this is data from the UN of people over 65 years of age. If you look here on the yellow curve, this represents Japan, blue Europe, and red the United States. And what we see is that with the baby boomers, we'll have a tremendous increase on the aging population. We'll go from 14% to over 22%. If you were in Japan, by the time my grad students would be retiring, there will be essentially 38% of the population will be over 65 years of age, and in Europe close to 30%. Even when you take in consideration the developing world, and here I'm showing India, you'll see that the population over 65 is going to grow at a very fast pace. And if we take in consideration China, which I'm not plotting here, but because of the one-child policy, by 2050, China will be between Europe and Japan in terms of aging. So what we started doing in 1989 was trying to start developing technology to help clinicians deliver therapy. Now, this technology and these ideas to develop technology to help clinicians deliver therapy did not came in a vacuum. What we learned in the 70s and 80s was that the concept that the adult brain was hardwired was incorrect. Neuroscience taught us that actually the brain was plastic, that new connections could be created or existing connections reinforced. So under this perspective, we started developing this concept. And here is one of the examples that for me was very important to convince me about this idea. This is data from a colleague from Kansas City, Randy Nudo, where he shows that in a group, he separated the monkeys in two different groups. What he showed is that if we get here, what he did show is that he mapped the area representing the hand, and he made a lesion in this part of the brains of the monkeys. And he separated them into groups. One group that received no rehab, he put them back in the environment. And they were able to keep doing their things to some extent, using the unimpaired hands. And what you see is that here you see the lesion, and you see that the area representing the hand, it shrink. It's smaller than was before. But to the other group, he created kind of a form of therapy for the monkeys. They had to press a lever with a very hard one with their unimpaired limb, and they had to retrieve from very small holes that would open when he pushed down that lever. They had to retrieve small basics or other food elements. And what he did see is that the area responding to the brain did increase. Not only did not shrink, but actually started to be represented in areas that were not represented before. So this is a very good example of brain plasticity. So now the concept that then we start developing